Hello, my name is Veronica Chapman-Smith. I'm the Vice President of Community Initiatives at Opera Philadelphia. Thank you for joining us for today's lecture, which is the third in our four-part series done in collaboration with the International Florence Prize Festival. This series provides a comprehensive exploration of representation in classical music, showcasing the diverse voices that have often been overlooked. Today's lecture, shining a spotlight on a female African-American composer, Evelyn Simpson-Curenton, will explore her works as a composer, her approach to performing spirituals and hymns in keeping with their traditions, and the relevance of her music in the 21st century. This lecture is being recorded and will be available on the Opera Philadelphia YouTube channel. Last week's lecture and our first lecture are also available on the Opera Philadelphia YouTube channel. And for those who are interested, we will drop that into the chat. As I mentioned, this series is done in collaboration with the International Florence Prize Festival. You may be wondering, why is Opera Philadelphia in collaboration with the International Florence Prize Festival? This lecture series is part of Opera Philadelphia's multi-year initiative, Sounds of America, Price and Bond, which began when Opera Philadelphia did a presentation of Margaret Bonds' Credo in the Academy of Music during our 22-23 season. This initiative, Sounds of America, Price and Bonds, explores the works of Florence Price, Margaret Bonds, and other Black artists during the Harlem Renaissance and their legacy and impact to the arts today. If you're interested in learning more about Sounds of America, Price and Bonds initiative, we can provide a link for you in the chat so you can kind of look around Opera Philadelphia's website. It is my pleasure to be in collaboration and cahoots with International Florence Prize Fest Board President Patrick Dailey. I would like to invite him to the screen. As I said, International Florence Prize Fest is one of our collaborators as part of the Sounds of America. Patrick, I will pass it over to you to talk a little bit more about Prize Fest, as well as our lecturer today.
Well, thank you so much, Veronica. Hello, everyone. I am Patrick Dailey, and I bring you greetings on behalf of the International Florence Prize Festival, of which I have the pleasure and honor of serving as its president. The International Florence Prize Festival, also known just very shortly as Prize Fest, is an organization that is founded around celebrating and advocating, of course, for the music of Florence Price, as well as other Black women, women of color, femme, folks of color, BIPOC artists and composers. And so we are delighted to be in partnership with Price Fest, excuse me, with Opera Philadelphia for this season. We have done a number of things together already, and there's some other things coming up. So this lecture series as well, in the past, we presented Sankofa Project, A Journey Through Black Music and Artistry, which features the music of Florence Price and Margaret Bonds and many other important Black composers and artistic and cultural figures. And today we are so delighted, I'm so delighted to be able to introduce to you all and present my colleague and Prize Fest board member, Dr. Iris Fordjour-Hankins. So Dr. Fordjour-Hankins completed a Doctorate of Music Arts degree at the University of Kentucky in voice in 2021. And she currently is assistant professor at Oakwood University in Huntsville, Alabama. Her dissertation, shining a spotlight on female African-American composer Evelyn Simpson-Curenton, is a part of her continuing effort to educate people about the beauty, elegance, and high level of craftsmanship poured into Simpson-Curenton's music for classically trained vocalists. And I must say, and we're going to get into this, I'm sure, but this is very exciting because we have Dr. Hankins presenting on A Daughter of Philadelphia. So it's quite appropriate that this brilliant scholar and artist is speaking about another brilliant scholar and artist who just so happens to be from the city in which we are partnered with. So with no further ado, I present to you all, please welcome Dr. Iris Fordjour-Hankins.
Hello, everyone. It is so wonderful to have this opportunity to work along with Opera Philadelphia and the International Prize Festival. It's been a long journey, and preparing this research And it excites me to be able to share what I have experienced in unlocking Evelyn Simpson-Curenton's music. It has been a delight to learn it. It has been a delight to get to know her. And I hope that in my own way, I can highlight what I have learned about her in a way that mesmerizes you as I am mesmerized by her myself. With that, let me share my screen and we're going to take off. My foundational thought today has come from the great Evelyn Southern. The Black musician has created an entirely new music in a style particularly or peculiarly known as Afro-American. That music today spreads its influence over the entire world. And ever since his arrival in the New World, he has enriched with his contribution the European-based musical traditions of the nation. Thank you again, Opera Philadelphia and the International Prize Festival for this opportunity to shine a spotlight on female African-American composer Evelyn Simpson-Curenton. Born in 1953, Evelyn is a wonderful genius. She came in the world, it seems, already possessing great musical talents. Throughout her journey, she began composing after learning to play piano, organ. She became a student of the voice and is now a sought-after lecturer and music director. Many of you will know her because of her choral works. If you don't know her in the city of Philly, then you may know her through some of the works that you have heard sung, particularly by the Aeolians. I'd like for you to hear Evelyn give you her greetings at this time.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Simpson-Curenton, and I'm delighted that the International Florence Prize Festival, in conjunction with Opera Philadelphia, are going to be discussing my music. I am so honored that I'm having this privilege, and I'm also honored that Iris Fordjour-Hankins did her dissertation on my music. She could have written about anybody, but she chose me, and that is a great honor to have my music presented today. Hi.
In 1991, we got to know Evelyn as an arranger for solo voice in the concert given by Kathleen Battle and Jesse Norman at Carnegie Hall, titled Spirituals in Concert. This perhaps may have been the beginning of her notoriety. Simpson-Curenton's contributions to this project were featured by both the soloists and the chorus and orchestra. You may even, upon viewing the concert again, see Evelyn sitting at the organ, where she accompanied so skillfully both artists. The works that we will talk about today were written in collaboration with her sister, Joy Simpson. She was a soprano of excellent quality, highly educated, and was a sought-after singer. Unfortunately, she passed away in an untimely situation, but she left behind her memory and the works that she had come up with her sister, Evelyn. In arranging them, they were able to do works of spirituals, hymns, some secular pieces, and some original works. I'd like for you to get to know Joy just a little bit. I was so curious about her as I listened to Evelyn talk about her sister and wanted to hear her voice. I just wanted to be able to share with you what I heard when I looked at this video on YouTube. I won't show the entire thing, but just enough so that you can get to see her person and hear her beautiful voice.
Why shall I feel discouraged? And why should the shadows come? And why should my heart be lonely and long for hand and home? When Jesus is my portion, my constant friend is real. It lies on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. His eyes on the sparrow, so I know He watches me.
I hope that you enjoyed hearing that. The sound of Evelyn's wonderful piano accompaniment there is like water, and the blending of those two talents together is just breathtaking in listening to how they seem to be so in sync with each other, as siblings should be. But we hope that other artists, when they begin to play this music, will find themselves simpatico as well. All right, I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about more about Joy and Evelyn's collaborations. Most of their songs were collaborations that happened on the spot, and they remembered them and began to work them out slowly over time until they were extraordinarily polished. Joy was a classically trained soprano with an international career, and the arrangements of spirituals and hymns that they developed came together over an approximate 15-year span. The songs were performed during their classical concerts at halls and churches internationally. For many years, these arrangements had gone unpublished, but now we are beginning to see Evelyn working towards having these arrangements published. Evelyn truly loved her sister, and I liked this quote of hers as I got to know her, and I just wanted to share it with you. Speaking of Joy, she says her program was always varied because it was classical. There would be spirituals and hymns a lot of times in our repertoire. And so that's where we came up with a lot of these arrangements. We were like frick and frack. We weren't just sisters, a lot of times creating on the spot, you know. If it was a hymn that, you know, we hadn't taken a lot of time with it. It was just such a wonderful collaboration being there and not just being sisters. I thought you would also enjoy hearing and watching at this time Joy sing just a little bit of the same piece. However, she is not accompanied by her sister here. She's accompanied by Devin Hollingsworth.
I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. As I
watching her sing, I feel as if she had such joy as she spoke of singing in that beautiful, well-known hymn, His Eyes on the Sparrow. As I considered doing this project, writing this dissertation, I was speaking with my wonderful colleague, but also teacher and person whom I look up to with great aplomb, Dr. Everett McCorvey at the University of Kentucky. And as I was speaking with him, and I mentioned Evelyn's name, he immediately said that it was a good idea to write about her. And I'm so grateful to him for the encouragement. So my work began with the literature review. Her absence from mainstream anthologies, theme compilations, all with an exception of one, and volumes and other types of publications of musical works for classical singers is noticeable. She just isn't there as much as we'd like to see. The biggest problem with her solo works, that is self-publication. During her earlier years as a composer, she believed that self-publication was the fastest way to distribute her music. Her voice through music is part of the African-American push for justice and equality. Alex Ross states that classical musical institutions have just begun to work through their racist past. Classical music can overcome the shadows of its past only if it commits itself to be strong and in the present. And so we seek to empower Evelyn's music and other Black artists through this push to break down barriers by having talks like this and asking for other researchers to include Evelyn in their review of literature and also in their research. Few are aware that Evelyn even published a book of spirituals, and you will soon get to see a little bit of that publication. Though there is one anthology that I did find Evelyn's works in, and it's just one song, published by Kathy Bullock and Donna M. Cox. Many of you may already have this compilation on your bookshelves, and it's a wonderful collection of songs. And it was here that I found Evelyn present. I looked in the works of some highly known compilations by Willis Patterson and just did not seem to be able to find Evelyn there. And I thought, wow, she's really missing. I looked also in some older publications and did not see her present. Evelyn did have, as I stated, a recording done by one of the DMV's own, Janice Chandler. She took the time with Evelyn and with Dr. Lloyd Mallory to record some of those arrangements in a collection of music written and arranged by Evelyn and Joy titled The African American Music for Classical Singers of Spirituals and Hymns. The recording was done in 2007, and I invite you to listen to it. Evelyn's book is published by E.C. Curenton Publishing. If you log on, you can check it out and purchase it for your own collection. It is these songs and others that I will briefly explain today. The largest problem, as I stated, is self-publication. Today, we notice that younger artists are more adept at online usage, and we see people selling their own publications for themselves, kind of bypassing big publishing houses. Evelyn's approach is quite different. And we do recognize that there's a generational difference here. And that is why self-publication in this instance has been a challenge for her. So to kind of sum up what that which I may have poorly stated is the following. There is no evidence of scholarly writing about her other than my own and some other recent interviews with her through PBS and the like. But at the time of my dissertation's writing, there had not been any. Her solo voice music needs to be mainstreamed. Her music belongs in the catalog of classical voice repertoire. I totally believe that students should be learning this music. She is better known for her choral works, but we now know that Black opera singers, especially today due to the time of the coronavirus picking up and the events surrounding George Floyd, that those events kind of spurred the need for Black artists to have a voice to bring change into this world. Another thing that bothered Evelyn about self-publication was that sometimes people would hear her performances and they would play them quote unquote by ear. And also, then those performances would not be as authentic and well thought out as it may be when someone purchases a score and performs it from that score. Evelyn's music is crafted, highly crafted music for the most trained vocalists, and not only the most trained vocalists, but the most trained pianists. So when I decided to write about her music, I thought about what would be the most efficient way to present the music. I thought, as a teacher of college-aged students, that I would like to have a resource I could turn to that would help me to identify songs for singers based on their skill level, based on the content of the text, based on the key, based on the type of voice that the student may possess. And so I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but there is a text by Barbara Dosher that was edited by John Nix posthumously, titled From Studio to Stage. I use that as a guide in writing my dissertation. Also, I refer to Christopher Arneson's work and Richard Bouldry. Here, they both talk about issues that are relevant to teachers of voice and helping to navigate the waters of text. And so I wanted to do something that would be useful to teachers. The potential use of my work is, again, for voice teachers in selecting repertoire for their courses, for their singers, and hopefully for researchers. The text that Evelyn compiled contains several spirituals. The published volume, it contains Amazing Grace, Balm in Gilead, Get on Board, which you heard Kathleen Battle sing in 1991 in that spirituals recital. He shall feed his flock, little David. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, and oh, what a beautiful city. Some of the other arrangements that you may have heard sung on the spirituals concert, there are the Calvary Medley, which was accompanied by the orchestra as well as the Metropolitan Chorus, and other songs, as you can see here. What was most of interest to me are the soon-to-be published works. And I've been working on a project to record them with Evelyn, and hopefully you'll get to hear some of these. Fix Me Jesus, Great is Thy Faithfulness, His Eyes on the Sparrow, In the Garden. I Don't Feel No Ways Tired, They'll Know We're Christians by Our Love. And there are a few others now she's working on penning. She has a few art songs as well. So in order to make my book relevant, and I do hope it becomes a book, I decided to classify the elements of song selection based on the following things that you see here. The entry elements talk about what's important to singers, you know, the tessitura, how high does it go, where does the voice normally sing, the difficulty level and the voice type. Of interest to this particular approach to cataloging her music are some suggested listening and reading ideas that Evelyn and I came up with to help students understand the inflections that are inherent in singing spirituals that many of us do not hear today, just because of how far we've come from the time of slavery. I'd like to show you an entry of mine based on the song Get On Board. The composer's notes is another feature here. She talks about the beginning of the piece, and I think what makes this piece particularly interesting is the way she came up with the idea for the accompaniment, which you will soon hear. She was riding the train one day and heard overtones in the whistling of the track and the tires and the horn. She heard these overtones and thought how she could include those in this arrangement. And so she was able to refer back to a few other pieces written by other composers that helped her to get a good jumping off start for this particular arrangement. You'll see here that the voice types that I recommend this song be sung by are sopranos and tenors. The tessitura is between E4 and F5, and the range expands up to a B flat 6. I also talk about the theme of the spiritual. In this instance, not only is it a religious theme, but it also is a code. Get on board. It was reminding those who would hear it back in the slavery days that the Underground Railroad was going to be activated in their area. And if they wanted to escape, they were invited to get on board. Not only is this spiritual a code song and religious, but I also borrowed from the idea of the great, wonderful historian, Randy Jones. She titles the different types of spirituals out there to help us to get an idea a more sense of how these spirituals are useful to us. She says that the spiritual here is considered a song of resistance. It could also be considered a song of defiance and deliverance, and even a song of judgment and reckoning. Also, I'd like to point out that sometimes when we're looking for songs, the titles may change. This particular spiritual is also known as the Gospel Train, Get On Board, and Get On Board, Little Children. She does take the time to write the text using Negro dialect and also standard American English. As I mentioned, I really respect the work of Randy R. Jones in her book, So You Want to Sing Spirituals. And here is her cataloging of the types of spirituals. I do use this as a reference to help us to understand what type of spiritual it is that one would be singing. I highly recommend this textbook. The present project goal here is to promote this solo voice and piano music of Evelyn Simpson-Curenton. It is hoped that performers, both soloists and pianists, will deliver it with the sincerity, grace, and dignity with which her music was written. I'd like for you to hear just a little demonstration of Get On Board. This was done about 8 years ago when I first met Evelyn. My voice is not as young as this, but I was very excited to work with her. She came all the way to the University of Kentucky when she heard I was going to be singing her music, surprised me the day before, and worked with me to bring this music to life. And so let's hear this arrangement. If I can get it to open. I may have to stop share and go off screen and play it for you from another perspective. Please give me a moment to do that.
Get on board, little children, get on board, little children, get on board, little children, there's room for many more. Get on board, little children, get on board, little children, get on board, little children, there's room for many more. The gospel train of a coming, I hear it just at hand. I hear his cargoes rumbling and roll through the land. Get on board, little children, get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's room for many more. Get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's room for many more. The gospel train will come in. It's coming round the curve. It's loosening all the steam and grace and straining every nerve. Get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's room for many more. Get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's room for many more. Next up is glory. Yes, the fast, cheap, and all can go. The rich and the poor are there. No second class aboard this train. No difference in the fare. Get on board, little children. Get on board, little children. Get on board, little children. There's room for many more. Get on board, little children. Get on board, little children. Get on board, little children. There's room for many
I hope you enjoyed it. What's so interesting about that particular arrangement is all of the colors that a student would have to learn in order to be able to bring to life this work that Evelyn has envisioned with her sister. And so it was a privilege to work with her, to learn to use my voice in new and exciting ways. And I think that as we as educators and performers consider what it is that our students are expected to do today, and that is they are expected to be able to use their voices in many different ways. This kind of singing helps them to lose the fear of vocal exploration. And so hopefully when you look at my entries, I am able to bring across the idea that the vocalist should be able to sing with certain exuberance, agility, and fearlessness. And so because it's hard to put to words what Evelyn is asking the singers to do, there are some suggested recordings that students could listen to included in this dissertation. All right, so what is the idea for future research. I have envisioned the idea that we should create similar catalogs of compositions for solo and classical voices of piano and piano works for African American composers, not just past, but also present and those to come. I truly believe that we should be promoting the works of our newer composers. I'm hearing some wonderful things happening out there, and I'd like to see more of us put together compilations that will bring honor to those works. And when I consider how wonderful it is that Florence Price has been brought to life for us. For many years, we only knew her for a few compositions, and that was mainly to me, My Soul's Been Anchored in the Lord. And it's so wonderful to know that there is a compilation of songs that we can go to currently. And I'm sure that it doesn't exhaust all of the music that she wrote for singers. It's just wonderful to have at our fingertips resources that we can turn to. And so my idea is just to drop in the bucket of what is already here and what is to come. I think that it would be a wonderful idea, as I'm saying again, for us as artists to continue to record these works so that people can get fresh ideas about how the voice can be used. We should always remember our past, those soulful moanings that we hear in the voices of people like Shirley Verrett, and even Leontine Price, who so fearlessly used her voice when singing spirituals. They're just great examples for us. And I don't want us ever as lovers of the voice and lovers of all music to forget that there is an enormous breadth that the voice can use to express music. And so I hope that people will not only begin to sing Evelyn's music, but that they will also record it so that it will be left for posterity. So I got a chance to hang out with Evelyn as she coached me in the style of singing her arrangements. And I'm just gonna have to be honest with you, it truly was the best day ever. I'm like a big fan of SpongeBob, and I remember him saying, the best day ever. That's exactly how I felt. I actually got to workshop with her on several occasions, but this one was particularly wonderful because not only was I working with Evelyn, but Angela Brown dropped in the house, and Janice Chandler and Gerald Cunningham, who are all friends of mine from Oakwood University. And it was just nice to talk with these ladies and to get to hear their perspectives on voice usage and how Evelyn's music could be expressed. Then I got a chance to meet with her again this past weekend, just to begin the process of recording this music. Hopefully it will be published soon, but she and I are both grateful to Opera Philadelphia and the International Prize Fest for the opportunity to talk about Evelyn's music and to bring it to the community at large. Please forgive my tongue-tiedness. I am a caregiver of my husband, and I'm a little bit distracted, but it is my hope that you were able to understand my ideas in this presentation. And I hope in the future that you would delve into the music of Evelyn Simpson-Curenton, not just her choral music and her organ music, because she does have arrangements for organists as well, but also her music for solo voice and piano. Please be looking out. This music is soon to be published. And again, let me state that she does have already a volume that is self-published under ESC Curenton. That means Evelyn Simpson-Curenton Publishing. I do hope that you get on board. I'd like to give thanks to Evelyn Currington, to Gerald Cunningham, Professor Sarah Ruff, Asha Moore, and Christian Calloway, Dr. Everett McCorvey, Dr. Angelique Clay Everett, Dr. Lloyd Mallory, Angela Brown, soprano, and Janice Chandler, soprano. Here is just a brief look at my bibliography. Please feel free at this time to ask any questions. And thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. I am Dr. Sequina Dubose, Vice President of the International Florence Prize Festival, joining you all and enjoying that fabulous presentation. We are just so grateful that Iris is a member of our board and that she is such an instrumental resource for understanding not only this work, but furthering its contributions to the canon. And at this time, we're going to open up the floor for a Q&A, and I'll happily facilitate that. How about I actually start out by asking you, is there a way that you can discuss some of the pedagogical benefits of incorporating this kind of repertoire into the applied voice studio?
Absolutely. I think when we allow ourselves to be free with vocal exploration, we find that singing becomes easier. We don't feel as restricted as vocalists because we're trying to do everything just right. As I was working with Evelyn, I discovered that my voice just began to free up because the air was moving. The air was moving. When you do those kinds of sounds, how is the air not going to flow through that sound if your throat isn't open, right? If your palate's not high, if you don't have some frontal ring in that sound, as well as some spatial openness in the back. And that's, I mean, what more could we ask for, though? You heard that siren I do in the beginning, all aboard.
Yeah.
You gotta be open.
Yeah, those are the tools.
Absolutely. It reminds me of the Strawberry Woman, right?
Oh my
From
goodness.
Courtney and Beth.
Yes, absolutely. Those are the foundational tools that we use all the time in the
Absolutely.
tonal repertoire and everything that we do. So
Mhm.
absolutely. And can you also share, I know that, some educators may be intimidated by this if they've not had exposure and the experience of being exposed to this style of music or understanding the performance practices to incorporate this into their applied studios. You had suggested listening. Are there other, and you also mentioned Brandy Jones's book.
Yes, yes.
But
And
what other things
also,
can they do?
yes, I think reading is always a good idea, but I don't know how reading can bring to life what we have to hear. It's easy for one to talk about a vocal sigh. It's easy for one to talk about dialect, but until they actually hear it in play, right? It doesn't work. And so I definitely believe in listening. And I also believe in stepping outside of traditional study. I think that we should study a little jazz. Study some R&B. I ask students to bring into my studio anything they want to bring at some point. So keep it in. But I do ask them to bring in anything that they're listening to. And what I like to do is just have us sit down and analyze what they're hearing. And then I step back because in studio class, students have an opportunity to become the teacher. And it helps me when I allow them to analyze how a tone has been produced and banter back and forth about it until we can all come to some understandings about how it's done. Singing is a mystery because we can't go inside the body. You know, I wish I could go inside and push your lyrics down, adjust it to the left, but I can't. And so I encourage people to sing all kinds of music. Don't get stuck in one. But if you are going to specialize, then specialize.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you can't explore, because I think when one learns that it's safe, you can safely come off of the chords to make a sound, to moan. We, you know, I don't even know how to moan, I don't think. You know, I didn't grow up hearing that. That wasn't what, you know, that wasn't my generation.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a little bit about, just kind of segueing a little bit about your path and what brought you to this, not just to this repertoire, but to understanding this performance practice.
Listening. Listening. So I grew up in a church that was quite conservative, although we sang, you know, the standard, you know, Black church. We got the fancy, the glorified hymn, you know. We had the spiritual, we had the anthems, we had the gospel song. So I had those, you know, already in my mind, but I really just began to listen. I was just mesmerized again by Shirley Verrett. And if you haven't heard her sing spirituals, you have to listen. And I also remember looking at the Hall Johnson Spirituals Choir in a movie that they did. And the name of the movie fails me right now. But it was a movie about the fall of, you know, mankind from the grace of God to the pits of hell. And the Hall Johnson Spirituals Choir were the soundtrack for this movie. And if someone is kind enough to Google that for me and put it in the chat, I really love it. But again, going back and hearing this kind of music really, really helped me. And then I used my imagination, right? You have to think, how am I going to spin a line? I can't just sing this. It's just, I can't just see what's on the page. You know, we get stuck because we see these notes on the page, and that's where I got stuck. So I just began to ask a lot of questions. I had a lot of people who were willing to invest in me and pass it down. So I would say it's word of mouth. It's listening. My journey was, believe it or not, I started as a pianist. I've been playing for church since I was 7 years old, and got a whole degree in piano, though one cannot tell now. But somewhere along the line, someone heard me sing and thought, you know, you really have something here that you should use. I didn't take it seriously until being my postgraduate studies. And I got a degree in music education as a master's level student. Worked for Detroit Public Schools, where that was an awesome resource for me. You know, Motown. You couldn't be around any greater musicians. George Shirley used to drop in to see me all the time. I got to meet Martha Reeves, Patti LaBelle. A lot of people were coming in because they wanted to see our students continue to make music. And so as they would talk to the students, I was getting an education as well. And sometimes they'd hear me sing and they'd give me some suggestions, especially that wonderful George Shirley, who couldn't love him. And he's also a great one for learning this style. So after I pursued the master's, had my children, I got laid off from Detroit Public Schools after 15 years, and I thought, well, what am I going to do? But another window opened up because I said, you know what I can do? I can sing. So I started singing. Someone heard me and suggested that I get the doctorate degree, and I thought, no. I don't want to go back to school. Look, I just left school. I'm not trying to go back.
Sound like me. I can't kick it and screaming, but Dr.
Yeah.
Everett McCorvey is also one of my mentors, and he's definitely one of the ones that was instrumental in convincing me to come back to get the degree. And I'm so
Yeah,
glad that I did.
yeah. And I won second place scholarship there, the All Tech competition, after breaking my jaw 4 months before. That was all divine. How, right? It was meant to be. And so, to be honest with you, I consider myself to be late in the game as a voice user, because this professional level of singing that I'm able to do now came with the doctoral degree studies. I took private lessons up until that point.
Right.
And so I'm excited about understanding the voice, because to me, I feel like a babe in the woods. And that's what makes me, I think, starry-eyed about teaching and finding repertoire for students. I will have to admit that Evelyn's music is hard as the Dickens. When
So
you,
maybe more for like advanced level college or graduate students.
yes, absolutely. But there are a few pieces that I would highly recommend. She has an arrangement of Fix Me Jesus that I believe is absolutely wonderful and should be sung by all students. She has an arrangement of Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child. It has a high A5 in it, but I think it can be navigated. And she is talking about, having a low voice, medium, and high voice collection.
Can you give us that website again, where you said that
Mhm.
the people can purchase the published arrangements
Yes,
directly from the composer?
ECS Publishing.
And we can make sure that we have that link as part of the post for the recording, as well as some of the books that you mentioned as part of this presentation. 'Cause I think this
Yes.
was extremely informative, and to what you and Sabrina were kind of talking about is the fact that these are things that should be shared, discovered by young singers, but also singers of a variety of ages. They may be a little bit difficult, but it's a good journey, because I know for myself, you're talking about using like extended technique or different, all of the colors of the voice really did help me as a singer. And as Opera Philadelphia does a lot of new works, and we do a lot of works that use those kind of extended techniques as part of like the storytelling. And I think for me, that is the thing that is really exciting about Evelyn's compositions, is that the fact that you can use all of the colors of your voice in order to tell a story.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you for that. And thank you for helping me to understand that it was indeed helpful to you. That means a lot to me. And I know it means a lot to Evelyn. And look Evelyn up. If you have questions about her music, I'm not the go-to person, though I don't mind you stopping by this way.
I think people are going to be probably wanting to reach out to you. So which is great, because, I mean, I think that is definitely a second or third career for you as a consultant, and someone to really be a resource to really understanding the performance practice, having worked so closely with the composer. I mean, you're the next best thing.
Aw.
So, I definitely would not shy away from that if you're open to
I
having
am
people reach
certainly
out to you.
open it. Yes, and please take a look at my dissertation, because
Please,
it
yes.
is there that I speak about dialect, style, appropriate ad lib. We can go too far to the right, too far to the left. There are some performances that are sleepers when it comes to spirituals, because we're afraid to experiment. And then there are some that make you think, this is good, but it doesn't sound like a spiritual anymore.
What is
So
the title of that dissertation again?
it is entitled Shining a Spotlight on African American Composer Evelyn Simpson-Curenton. And it's published through the University of Kentucky. I would appreciate all of you taking a look at it. I am hoping to turn it into a book. Thank you so much for putting that into the chat. I'd like to turn it into a book and expand my work. I'm getting to know Jasmine Barnes as a composer. There are some other composers out there, Roy Jennings, some other DC composers that are out there with great musical ideas. I'd just like to see us talk about those people and help us to be aware of their music so that younger singers and me too and you can sing this music and keep it alive. Thank you for having me.
Thank
Yes,
you, Dr.
Yes.
Fordjour-Hankins, for sharing this important work and research that you're doing, and for helping to enlighten all of us about this work.
Thank you.
Yes.